Okay, so uh, this is my video. It's Tui and Charlie. I say Tui and Charlie because I've got my little daughter in her swing behind me. She's the driving force behind these videos because one day I want her to learn how to play chess as well or better than her father. So that's what these videos are all about to me. And I'm just going to go over a game that I played today, and I'm going to annotate it live with all of you without computer analysis. That's the idea. And I won this game. I thought I played really well. Uh, and this is just me kind of spitting off the top of my head. So I played e4. I'm becoming an e4 player again. So trying to learn some lines. I've been using the e4, keep it simple e4 to help me with my opening repertoire. And my main weapon I've been liking to play is Rui Exchange, which I don't necessarily get very often, but it's just what I like to play. I'm trying to get into end games, and not because I'm great at end games, but I figure the more end games I play, then the better my chess will be. So e5, so I'm looking good so far. Knight f3, knight c6, and bishop e5. So at this point, I'm getting everything I want. I'm hoping for either a6, and then if I play a6, I'll exchange it and keep into my lines. Or perhaps, if not that, maybe he'll play Rui Berlin, and I've got some book on that as well. But instead, he plays something that I'm not really expecting. Some offbeat lines in this opening include things like uh, knight e7. I don't remember what this is called, uh, but it's an interesting line that I have to learn to rebook up on. Uh, this is super hyper aggressive. I think this is called the Schliemann, and it's again something to be prepared for if you're going to try to be a Rui player. And then there's the classical or the Cordell defense, which is bishop c5. But what he plays is the Fianchetto defense. He plays g6. And this is an interesting line because not only is it an interesting line, but this is, again, not something I'm particularly familiar with. This is the first time I've ever seen this line over the board. And I've studied, thanks to Chessable, I have studied this line a little bit, but very little. I have very little knowledge of it, but I know to play d4. So the idea is just to attack the center immediately and open things up, go for the center. If this is going to be a dawdling move, if black is going to, because black's looking to Fianchetto, which is not a bad idea, but if he's going to take a move that doesn't fight for the center, he probably needs to play this immediately. Uh, but if he doesn't, then I need to try to win in the center. So then there is d takes or e takes d4. Now, what do we do now? The book move is bishop g5. And the reason for that, I think, should be fairly simple. Knight f6 is a disaster zone because after bishop takes, pawn takes, e5, and it's just rough. Like I mean, there are. I suppose there might be. I just don't see it. I don't see any way. I don't see any way black gets out of it from there. So you can't play knight f6 because of the e5 push is too dangerous, and black doesn't have time to play bishop g7. So my understanding of the book line is that it goes bishop takes, queen takes, and then I believe white then castles kingside. And this is a pretty stable game. I don't think there's anything remarkable about the game from here if you play that into that line. There are more moves in the line, but I don't really know it off the top of my head. But uh, it's something I've looked at. Now, he doesn't do that, however. And this is where I know he goes off book. So regardless of what regardless of what is going on in book play, we're off book with f6. And even though, I don't know what to do, I don't know what like the book response is to this move, it's a good thing that I just know the fact that it's not book, right? The very fact that I know that it's not book is a very, 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 very good piece of information. So what do I do? Well, I've been fighting for the center. So since I've been fighting for the center, I'm going to try to stay fighting for the center. If he goes back here, maybe I'll come back to g3. But I'm just going to, again, I'm not calculating a lot of lines here. I'm just more thinking, all right, I'm stronger in the center. Now, if you look at this position, it's black to move. So you could argue he's not terribly far behind in development, but let me put it this way. If it were white to move here, black is just losing, right? Because if he has 3 pieces developed to black's 1 and it's white's move, there's just no way, right? Like white's just winning here. But it is black to move, so he then plays bishop to b4 check, which I understand. He's trying to win a tempi, and he's trying to get developed as fast as he possibly can. Now, there are a couple different alternatives to this line, and I'm not entirely sure what the right choice. So I think when I see candidate moves, I see the following candidate moves. I see bishop to d2, knight to d2, and pawn to c3. Now, all of these, I think that if we were to play something like this, I think it favors white. I think white is still better. He's better developed. I mean, white could decide to castle queenside and then do a kingside pawn march. Of course, black doesn't have to exchange here, but I find it hard. I think that if he does anything else, it's kind of a waste of a move. But again, I didn't like that idea. I thought that slowed me down. I thought perhaps this is better because if this, then this, white is in a much better position. Like white has to be winning here. Like I can't even imagine white is not winning here. I'm not going to check the engine right now because I think it's better for us to look at it without an engine. But that's what we're doing. And by the way, anyone who's watching this, whether it be Charlie or Dominic or someone else, the reason why I don't show the moves here on the board is I'm wanting you to guess. I don't want you to look ahead in the annotations. So another really good move, and I'm guessing this is what the computer wants, is c3 because of this. I think that this is what white is looking for, and then maybe this. Now again, white now has a pawn weakness here, but I think the advantage for white in this position is now white is looking at this open file, this king that seems kind of stuck in the center for the moment, this bishop that can come here if the knight moves, and a queen that can go here, and it's, again. But I didn't know what I liked about this because, all right, let's just look at this for a moment. Maybe knight d7, bishop over to try to prevent castling. I think black can be fine here. Maybe d6 followed by bishop out, queen out. I don't know, but I feel like black can be okay, and then maybe with just a little bit of time can target that c pawn. So I go here. I think this is the choice. Again, may not be the computer choice, but it develops an undeveloped piece. This is kind of the most, I think, principled move. I'm trying to minimize my pawn moves. You'll notice that black has made a number of pawn moves, and white has made like 2. And I have all these active pieces, and that's what I'm going for. I'm going for activity. So then he plays knight to e7, and I feel like that is a completely reasonable move. It is a bit of a problem, though. This queen is cramped, this bishop is cramped. I'm wondering if he had a better choice with maybe d6. So after this, maybe d6. Now, the argument, of course, against playing d6 is bishop takes c6, b takes c6, and now there's this other double, but I don't know if that's so bad. I mean, because black can try this, and in the long term, there's a weakness there, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's that big of a deal. Um, if he had played d6, would I have exchanged the knight to take the structural weakness? Uh, Maybe, but I probably would have just played the move I ended up playing anyway, which is after he plays this, I force the issue. What do I want? What is the move I want? Well, I want him to take the knight, right? The reason why I want him to take the knight is simple. Takes the knight, queen takes. I can castle queenside if I want. Uh, this d pawn is toast. Technically, he's up a pawn temporarily, but I don't think he ever thought he was going to be laying onto it. So I force the issue, and then he retreats. Now, I do have the option of an immediate uh, an immediate pawn push, and then pushing him to b6, but that defends d4, and I want to be able to take d4. So I had a couple of thoughts here. I thought perhaps maybe here, but I can't go there yet because the knight's pinned. So, and I also thought about bishop here because I realized that I might be missing on an opportunity, right? So if I castle and he castles, then I lose my opportunity to keep the king in the center. So I'm thinking to myself, do I go here and keep his king in the center before I lose the opportunity, or do I castle? And the reason why I castle, because that is the way I actually played it, is because I'm thinking, all right, he's defended it here. I'm thinking that knight c3, bishop comes, and then I can attack that pawn. It's thrice attacked, twice defended, and I can go after the king. Or maybe knight c3 or knight c4 instead, which allows me to trade that knight for that bishop, which I think would probably be a better choice even. Because if I go here, I basically can force the trade of the knight and the bishop under different circumstances. Like I can trade it here and get the knight on the rim, or I can trade it here and then see what happens. So that's probably the choice. So black plays a6. Now, to me, I thought taking was just bonkers. I think that just solves some of black's problems. Granted, he is, still worse. He still has some problems, right? Because I still have this beautiful knight c4, and I'm going to exchange it, and I feel like I'm going to be better. I'm going to be much better in the center. But you know what? Why solve black's problems for him? Bishop c4. And he decides to play b5, and because I've already played this move, I have this beautiful move tucked in here, and the bishop can continue. And that's the other beautiful thing about this, is that once he played, because I was worried about the king castling before I had an opportunity to keep him in the center. So now I have the ability to both answer the threat and prevent castling kingside, at least temporarily, this way. So hence we do that. b5, bishop a2. And I think, white is not winning yet, but is clearly better, and black has to play supremely accurately now. What would I suggest? Difficult, but maybe. The move order is tough, but I would say bishop b7, d6, maybe queen up, castle queenside. Not the best choice, but you have to do something. So, all right, d5, and this is the point where I'm fairly certain that black loses the game, because the king is stuck in the center, and now he allows me to open up the center, and an open center favors the side who's better developed. It's clearly white, because this rook is going to come into the game very soon. You can't ignore it because of the threat against the knight. So there are a number of choices, but I was curious if you try something like this, but this just gives up a pawn, as I'm sure you're aware. And again, it's just awful. So you have to take it, and then you have the choice of where do you take it? that's not. And then again, you can't take it with the queen because it's hit, right? So I feel dumb. I'm not really doing these variations very well. So take it, and so you have to take with the knight because the bishop hits it, and then of course rook e1 check. And even though it's not easy from here, at least not for me because I'm a patzer. But I think white is winning. I think the king in the center, white's development is too much. I think this is a good move, um, especially like what else do you do? So now the bishop goes to h6. Why? Because this knight is hitting this bishop. And where does it go, right? I mean, I could pull it back here, but I think that this move is a move that deals with the threat, and it also gives me, it also keeps the king from castling, so it gets to be a move that's both defensively and aggressive at the same time. It allows me to do a lot of things at once. I really like it. So c5, this is a good move. I mean, he's got to do something. He's got to be aggressive. Um, and I think the real beauty behind this move is that it can, c4 can really be a problem for this bishop. So I don't want this bishop to become a problem. I've already stopped this king from castling. So I trade. It's time to trade. And then queen takes from the pin. Now, this is the interesting move. This is the move that chess.com gave me at 2 exclamation points. I don't think I deserved it. It's true that I'm allowing this capture, but I'm threatening the fork, right? So it's actually not that brilliant a move. I don't think there are a lot of good moves for black here. You can't defend, for example, this way because then you give up this check, which loses immediately. You can't go here to stop this because of the knight, so I'm fairly certain the move that he played is the only move. And, I just don't see what else you play here. So there are a couple of ideas here. One idea I had was just to go here, and then the rook goes there, and then I capture on f6. I think it'll be interesting to see if that's the right resource. But what I played instead was b4, because you can't forget this, right? This is still an issue. So he takes, and now I have to worry about a potential capture and thing, but it slows this down. But what it does, once you remove the defense of this pawn, now my queen's involved, and good lord, black just has no way to defend this. I'm not saying I would win this game against Magnus Carlsen, but it's rough. I mean, because this is now hit twice. There's no adequate way to defend this pawn. There are so many checks that are coming. He plays bishop. And I don't think I played this perfectly, but I played what I saw I could get. I saw this instantly wins a piece, right? So king down, and now I take with check. And because I take with check, if nothing else, I win a piece. So if he had gone here, then I would have just taken the knight, right? And, because it's defended, so I knew it wins a piece. So this is the move. And then I just, right here, right, I can trade this if I want, or actually just outright win it, so I saw a place where I can get real material. He goes here, I take it. I could have just won another piece by going this way, because of that's forced, I think. But I go here, and then the knight goes here, and then I just check, and then it's just silly, I can just, and then I just take the queen, and he resigns because he goes here, and now I am winning a hole. What I would have played here, just to be clear, I would have played with the rook. I play with the rook because, he either has to give away his other rook and be down all this material, or he has to try to save the rook. And, after that, I mean, what do? I mean, you've got check, and the where do you go? You know, and check, where do you go? It's just brutal. It's just absolutely, totally, there's no, there's no, there's no end to the brutality, really. Like it's just done, and you just have overwhelming force. So this isn't a great video. I thought I was trying to show a couple of different ideas, but the main thing was keeping the king in the center, and how I keep the king in the center in order to just, again, it gave me tactics, right? It gave me tactics because I was able to keep the king in the center. So I'll end this recording, and this is Tui and Charlie signing off.